All right, welcome everyone to our webinar today. Thank you so much for being here. This is where tech meets trust, automation that connects, not replaces. I'm Shafika, and I'm so excited for this conversation. It's one I know a lot of us in the B2B world have been waiting for. So there's a lot of noise around AI and automation right now, but what doesn't usually get talked about is how we use these tools to strengthen customer relationships and build real trust at scale. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Joining me are two amazing speakers. We have Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger, and we have from Vincit, Victoria Palacin joining us. She is the Director of Data, Analytics, and AI. She'll be sharing her experience on helping clients bring AI and automation into customer experiences in ways that are both thoughtful, personal, and real. So strap in, you're in for a very practical and forward-looking conversation. Feel free to put some questions in the Q&A box throughout the chat, and we'll hopefully get to as many as we can towards the end of our session. So without further ado, I will kick it over to Eric.
Thank you, Shafika. So I'm going to share my screen and get us started on the slide deck so that with that as a backdrop. I am Eric Holtzclaw, as Shafika said, Chief Strategist with Liger. We're a B2B marketing firm, and we look very much at what kind of technology and marketing should be applied in a business to move you to your goals. So it's not about tech or marketing for the sake of tech and marketing. It's really about what does that do to move the needle. And so Victoria and I are going to talk through that with you today. We've been following this smart marketing framework, driving growth through effective strategies. We had our last session kind of introducing this as a model, and many of the components had a technology piece. So like, how does the technology play into this? And so I told you to stand by, come in for the next webinar, and we're going to have that conversation. I do want to use this as an open forum because some of the things that Victoria and I are going to talk about today are progressive, new things that are just bleeding edge. And you may have some questions about how that would apply within your business. Please put those in the chat, and then Shafika will help us to figure out where to introduce those at.
Hi, everybody. Victoria here, joining you from Helsinki. And Vincit is a Nordic agency. We are a Nordic digital agency. And what we do is we are turning digital into business results. And we do this from 4 different corners of business areas. We work quite heavily with like commerce solutions, digital commerce, and in the Nordics. With data and AI, we have quite advanced solutions that we have implemented, fit-for-purpose solutions for different sorts of customers across many sectors here in the Nordics, particularly, I would say, manufacturing and knowledge services. And then we also work with SAP, which is, as I have heard today, the most valuable company in Europe as of today. And we develop all sorts of applications on top of SAP. And we, of course, do all types of like digital consulting when it comes to like fit for purpose digital products and services. So that has been seen. Our journey started about 18 years ago in a small city in Finland called Tampere. Nowadays, we are a 98 million euro revenue company. We are listed on the stock market in Helsinki, and we have offices in a few other countries. We are also in the US, we are in California, and we have some wonderful offices in Southern Europe and in north of Europe. Our market is primarily the US and the Nordics. And yeah, that is Vincit.
Very nice. And we work with Vincit in partnership on some of the projects that we're putting technology in place where their skills complement ours from the perspective of putting the brand and making sure that all of it's going to work within the MarTech stack. So that's a real relationship between Liger and Vincit. We thought this would be a good way to get kind of two perspectives, so coming at it from two different angles. So as a little bit of a reminder of the smart marketing framework, there are 5 components of this. We know that marketing is seeing more and more pressure to prove that the dollars that are being spent are actually effective. And so how do you do that as an organization and make sure that it's going to work in a way that allows you to get to your customers, start to move the needle? So in the smart marketing framework, there are 5 components. There's simplifying, which is streamlining with clear messaging and automation. measuring, so tracking those key metrics, not all the metrics, not the vanity metrics, the metrics that are actually important to knowing how the business is moving, aligning, ensuring all of your company departments are working together. So if you build something from a marketing perspective and you only have an external message and you haven't thought about how it's going to show up internally, that's going to be a gap and your customers are going to feel it. Being able to respond, adapt quickly to industry changes, and that's where we do see a lot of influence from AI. So what are your competitors doing in the AI and technology space that you're not doing that's going to leave you behind? And while companies were able to stand on the sidelines during the web and social media, AI is moving so quickly that it's going to be very hard to catch up. If you don't go ahead and start thinking about it now, you can't avoid it. It's not something that you can't decide not to do. You've really got to do something with it. So I'm going to encourage you, being older than most and having seen these waves, that this catch up is going to be very difficult if you don't start considering it. And then finally, how do you target people? Use segmentation for personalized campaigns. I'm most excited because I was in the research space before marketing, and we always talked about wanting to do personalization, and it's always been still kind of mass personalization. AI does allow you to personalize in a way that we've never been able to do before. And so specifically for today, we're going to talk about tech that builds trust. So our goal is to look at only 3 of these letters. So we're going to look at simplify. So automation as a clarity builder, aligning, ensuring your marketing, sales, and CX are all working together and effectively, and then responding. So those are the 3, evolving with AI and CX expectations. So we're not going to talk about all the letters today because we would be here for 3 hours. And you all would be bored looking at your Zoom screens for that long. So we are going to really hone into these, kind of talk a little bit about what these categories mean. Victoria is going to give you some examples, and then she and I are going to bounce back and forth on things we're seeing, things that are working, not working within those categories. So to first kind of look at simplify in a world, I want to give you a backdrop of AI. So in a world of AI, automation and nonstop digital noise, the brands that win are the ones who simplify, not just their messaging, but their systems, tech, and customer journey. So it's about figuring out the right ways and the right avenues to apply AI and tech, not for the purpose of doing it, but for the purpose of simplifying, making life easier both for yourself and for your customers as they start to interact with you. And so to give you a backdrop of what's going on in the AI space, Victoria has pulled together a few slides. So I'm going to click through those and let her speak to them.
Thank you, Eric. Very well said. I think what we are seeing here with AI and all the buzz around it is really like what is going to be, I don't know, not a wave, but a tsunami of changes for our future. And this is something that we are starting to see around the world, and we are only going to see grow exponentially. So it makes a lot of sense for a lot of sectors to right now look into what are their opportunities, what can I do with AI, and what can I do to create value. So here I have some stats from the state of the AI market. This is a report from AI Finland, and so it reflects quite heavily the state of the market from the Nordic perspective. However, I have also checked, for example, BCG reports about the state of the world in terms of AI adoption, and they have a very similar trend. Basically, what is happening now is that most decision makers around the world are trying to divert their investments into AI investments. So there is an increase on investments, but also as we have seen now, there has been many types of co-pilots in use. People are becoming quite familiar with those. So right now we are moving from an exploration stage where we were kind of just getting familiar with LLMs and what they mean for us, into a stage where we are exploiting them, scaling them up really for very specific use cases. So this is a trend that is already happening, and in many sectors we are seeing that value is being created through AI, through improved products, through improved workflows. And this is just an overall picture of where we're at. And the next slide, I have kind of painted you a little bit of an overview of what does this mean in practice. So it means that in 2022 we started seeing some general knowledge assistants. Many of us were familiar with them, and probably still have some of them. And some of us have company knowledge assistants. So, for example, all sorts of chatbots that have become quite popular and that have also gotten deployed, for example, within the suites of our own tools like Microsoft. Now, in 2024, it has been the rise of customer AI assistants. So these bots have become better. They have become better because of new technologies. There is a technology called retrieval augmented generation RAGs that have just enhanced chatbots for the better. And that has created a lot of customer AI assistants. So we see that these AI assistants are now being deployed in customer service, and we see them on the websites for commerce, for our favorite airlines and whatnot. And they are not bad anymore. Those chatbots used to be known for being bad, and within like 3 questions, you could be trying to find a human. But they are getting better. They have gotten better, and they are now getting like massively deployed. And what is next? Well, what is next is what probably we all have been hearing about, agents. Agentic AI is a technology, well, technologies that have been already on the rise for, I would say, 6 months or so. And now they're getting deployed around different use cases. And it is actually expected that by the next half of this year, we're going to start seeing more autonomous agents being deployed massively. And we're also going to start seeing a lot of examples of failures of agents on social media. But the difference between agents and these co-pilots is that, or customer assistants, is that agents are actually able to perform tasks. So you could imagine that you're chatting with, like, let's say, an assistant, your favorite site, let's say an airline, and you could ask them, for information about something like, hey, could you look up like what's the best dates to go to Italy? And they're able to give you some information, but they're also able to pull the entire booking. So you could just ask for it. So they're able to like go on with actions. And there's a lot of use cases, especially for companies like ours and companies in manufacturing, that can be already automated with agents, and where the work of humans can actually be enhanced. And I'll talk a little bit more later about like whether AI is being a friend or a foe, but I think it depends how we all look at it and the types of cases where we bring them on. But there will always be a need for humans. So things are changing. The nature of our work is changing. And most importantly, what we consider valuable is changing, because there were things that we associated with a lot of value in the past. What value has meant, for example, for marketing. But in a world full of AI, our own perception of value changes. We start valuing more the human, and we start valuing other things. So there is both here an opportunity for like growth, but of course, there is also a lot of change on the way. And yeah. Oh, sorry. So Eric, you wanted to say something?
No, I mean, well, one point I wanted to make, and then we'll go to that friend or foe, is it's very interesting in the satisfaction results category, because I've been through a lot of these technology waves, and the fact that most people are satisfied to very satisfied is very interesting for this technology. Because when you were first implementing some of the other tech we've had in the past, that would not have been like, people tried it and then they're like, oh, that's really hard. It doesn't work the way that I'd expect. So we're seeing this increase because people are getting good results. So there's this like positive movement in that direction. And as a person who's all about convenience, I'm all about the automated autonomous AI agents. I've used several for planning trips. So like I've got a trip coming up, and I told it what cities I wanted to go to and what time I was going to be there. And it told me all the hotels I could go to, but I still had to go book the hotels. I want the thing to book the hotels for me. So that way I'm not wasting my time. I mean, that's not something that's the first order of things that I want to do. So yeah.
Absolutely. And then I think that, goes quite in line with what I was going to say about AI being a friend or a foe. I think it can be a friend when we are talking about automating things that are like repetitive, that are boring. And, you had a very good example there about like planning a trip. But I have seen, for example, where I work, a lot of examples related to project management. There are a lot of tasks that are incredibly like repetitive, and there are no humans that want to be doing that. So those are excellent places where we can deploy agents. Also, we can deploy agents in like business critical, like I would say processes where we, for example, need 24/7 monitoring of something. Like there's no human that will be able to do that, but their agents are able to do that, and not only able to monitor, but also able to execute if they see that something is happening. They're able to, like, for instance, safeguard an entire company. So they can be our friends in the sense that they can really help us replace those repetitive tasks, and they can also support a lot of processes without the constant involvement of humans. So that is, like, very simple. That's, I think, the best use we can think of automation. But then more fundamentally, I believe many of us are knowledge workers. And that means that, we are trying to figure out what metrics might make sense. We're trying to, like, create frameworks and approaches that could create more value for our customers. And in these types of scenarios, what AI brings to us is that it enables knowledge work. It powers up our ability to make better decisions with data. It enhances our problem solving. I recently had a conversation with all the data and AI experts in my team, and I asked them, how do you use AI every day? I really want to understand how are we using it? And it was fascinating to me, for instance, to hear about use cases where they were using Gemini's ChatGPTs as sparring partners. So they would spar with them solutions. So they would think, instead of implementing things, they would be like, hey, what would happen if I do this, or what if I do that? So in a way, like, they were able to see what were all the implications of their decisions before making them. So they didn't have to go all the way to implement something. And that is just really powerful if you're a knowledge worker that is trying to, like, bring the best advice to your customers. It is really valuable to know, like, what would be the consequences of those decisions. And that relates very well with the enhancing of, like, problem solving and generally, strengthening our brain work. Can it be a foe? Yeah, absolutely. If AI is badly utilized and plays in, like, use cases that do not make sense, that is why I think it is really important to have a strategy, and in general, to always have technology that aligns with your strategy. And luckily, nowadays, CEOs and the boards are way more involved in the technological decisions for their companies, because tech is business critical. Like 30 years ago, perhaps a CEO would not have been thinking about, like, their internet connection or something like that, and would having a decision taken in the IT team. But now technology is a business critical part of any business around the world. So if you want to sell, if you want to have your logistics, if you want to have your operations running, you need tech. And AI is tech. It's a tool that you can use, and you need to have a purpose with it. So you need to align it first to your business. So yeah, that is a little bit of a reflection on this. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I think the same. I think of the things that you have to do versus the things you want to do or that we need you to do. So I want AI to do all the things I have to do that are just boring, not the part, but it lets me focus on, and I love your example of the knowledge workers using it to spar and come up with better ideas. I was recently doing a persona project for a client, and I was able to feed it in and get the patterns back very quickly. And then that way I could start to validate and confirm and do some of the pieces that the AI won't be able to do. Like, that's just not part of what it does. So it's a very interesting for some of us. Some of it's scary, and some of us are like, this is going to be great. Like, what's it going to do and how's it going to work? So,
Absolutely.
So looking at the overall strategy, so you want to speak a little bit about where AI is in that category?
Yeah, well, what I wanted to bring to you with this slide was, I wanted to highlight that you need to align AI with your business. AI is evolving rapidly. The developments in that field are just impressive. But what can you do to keep up with those developments, or what can your business or your customers do? They have to update their strategy. So they have to evolve their strategy to take into account this type of development. So to, for example, have an idea of what are the types of results that you seek, because it is a lot easier for consultancy firms like ours to find interesting use cases to propose you better ideas when you know where your business is going. So that is the first, like, I could say, like, takeaway from here, but also, like, take into account that nowadays you have to balance quite a bit like this off the shelf and custom solutions. In the past, and all of these sort of like really advanced AI technologies were custom solutions that you had to invest like millions on. That is not the case anymore. You might have to invest in like some of those, or your customers might have to invest in those, but nowadays there are a lot of like these off the shelf solutions. So and many companies are actually like, you know, reviewing their options and seeing what is like best for them. So be aware of those, review them. I think it's a very good market to like stay on top of right now. Do not be afraid of AI. I think it's a wave that we will all ride together. And it's, pretty much like mobile phones a while ago, or the internet itself, like it will become a platform for business in the future. So be open to that. Nobody would have, like maybe 20 or so, maybe more years ago, would have thought that the internet would have become the main, platform for like sales, like 2025. And nowadays it's a technology that has had like a lot of like, it has transformed the way we do business. So probably we're going to see something very similar. And something to keep in mind at the pair of that is that like there are probably like new revenue streams that can come from AI implementations and like AI solutions. So that is something to keep into account, that if your strategy includes growth, which probably most companies do have as part of their strategy, this can be a source for new revenue. And right now, a big challenge across the markets, particularly in the Nordics, is that there are insufficient investments. So the Nordics are kind of lagging a little bit behind on like AI adoption and compared to Europe and compared to the world. So this is an area where like you can like, if you are like advising or like working with the board of a company, you can like think about like how can you create sustained investment for this type of initiatives so that they can evolve over time. And it doesn't need to be like huge, but it needs to be consistent, because again, the field is evolving quite quickly, and AI is now becoming an enabler, a strategic driver for many businesses. So tying them up to your strategy just is something that makes sense. But yeah, so this is an overview of like what's the state of like the market, and like why are we here like talking about this hyped word AI? What is it? And as you can see, we have I guess a saying in Finnish. It might be also saying in English that if there is smoke, it is because there is probably fire, and there is fire. There is a lot of smoke right now, and the fire is that there is a technology that seems to be showing a lot of promise already. So it's worth looking into it.
We have the same saying. So yeah, so where there's smoke, there's fire. And the concept too, you talked a little bit about countries. We work primarily in B2B and complex enterprises, and they tend to lag in the adoption of technology. They're still doing things that were 5 to 10 years, sometimes older than that, in adoption. And if those companies continue to go that route, it is easier for a competitor to come in and take market share from you. And then we also have to understand, where are you going to show up in this new AI world? We have so many people who are completely changing their behavior in the way that they find solutions and vet them, that you have to know how this is going to be sort of a disruptive power to that. So you can't avoid it. You can't ignore it. I feel like I've said this my entire career about new technologies. And then I end up working with companies that did. And I'm really afraid that 3 years from now, when those companies, start looking for those of us who understand it, it's going to be like, I don't know what I can do for you, right? Like, you should have really thought about this earlier. So that gets us into this sort of first part of the thinking about AI and AI application. So if you talk about the smart growth framework, we have simplifying. So using systems and technology to your advantage. So how can you automate repetitive marketing tasks to free up time for strategy and customer engagement? And your CRM systems should manage leads efficiently and build warm-up, nurturing, win-back, and top-of-mind campaigns. All of this is a very interesting application for AI because these are things that are often overlooked and may be hard to build. So what I've seen is that companies will kind of get exhausted at the end of one of these and say, oh, now I got to go build another one. Well, with some of the AI tools in place, you can have it recommend, like, what should this campaign look like, or map to one that has been successful. So it takes a lot of that heavy lifting. It's creating some of the things that you want. And then as an organization or individual, you need to know how to curate it correctly. So how do you take the best of what it's telling you and make sure it's on brand, on message? And the AI tools don't necessarily know where your business is headed. So what is it leaning forward? Like what does it look like in the future? So this thing about aligning is making sure that your marketing is attracting leads and ensuring there's alignment against all of the organization. And my selfish way to talk about this is it's sometimes very hard to get people to align. So as much as you can use some tools that force that alignment, so the more I can move somebody from suspect to prospect to customer in an automatic way, the more control I have, and the AI tools allow me to do that. So if I can take something that used to be a manual process, a manual thing that somebody had to do, and build a way that it's going to be consistent across until that person really does need to talk to someone when they're at the point of final conversion, that's going to make sure that my message, the way that I'm talking about something, continues to be effective and efficient across that organization. And so we are thinking about how you kind of support the customer journey at those key steps. So the moments that matter. When somebody goes from awareness to exploration to comparison, how do you use AI to fill in the gaps and then put people and other things in place at those kind of moments that matter, such that you're going to make sure that customer converts the way that you want or expect. So Victoria, I'm making sure I'm getting to your slide. Yeah, so I'm
yeah.
one of your slides up and then have you kind of talk through
Yeah,
how this works.
absolutely. Yeah, this is the right place to talk about like the AI opportunities in digital sales and the B2B buyer journey. So I thought of bringing this actually quite insightful canvas from Columbia Road that surprised me quite a bit because they have done a mapping of what are all the opportunities that kind of arise, for example, in these journeys and in all of these stages. And they have also like mapped certain like types of agents that could be developed to be used. This is quite a like theoretical exercise still for them. I believe that they are like they have some of those agents like already on the market and some of them are under development. But let's talk through that. So here, for example, something they have highlighted is that some of the ideas is that in the awareness, you could have AI supporting, you know, your events, supporting like, for instance, like providing recommendations or also like providing summaries from like forums or communities for like, for example, product reviews. And this is something that already I think we can do quite well with like the copilots that we have in many places. But as the journey matures and we move, for example, into the consideration phase of buying something, you could use AI to automate the browsing of referral cases, for example, making smarter or to compare solutions with your competitors. So you could like really, you know, have an agent that goes and like helps your customers make the best decision and really shows that what you are doing is the best. Then in the phases of decision and purchase, for example, it can help on specifications. This is something that like is quite important also like for actually in between systems when we are talking about like product management, for example, like technologies and product management platforms, they need to like transfer specifications from one platform to another. And this is a very specific area where AI can help a lot, but it can also like help to create the specifications. So if you have like a new product, you could use AI to like create the specifications. And of course, you can also use AI to support the negotiating price and terms. So this is something that like could be done like semi-automatically with like agents if you are able to, for example, set certain like limits to like you negotiate your like the prices that you're comfortable with, for example, for a certain service, and you would like to negotiate with a customer or with a provider. So you can also look into, for example, opportunities to get a legal support. For example, reviewing of contracts or agreements. Actually, we have a beautiful case at Vincit where we are doing exactly that. There has been a lot of applications of AI where they have been reviewing content and helping individuals make better decisions based on huge amounts of information. So like making really good summaries and highlighting possible conflicts. I have recently heard from some of our project managers that they are, whenever there is a new requirement from a customer, they have this notebook LM spaces where they have been saving, for example, related documents related to a customer. And whenever there is a new proposal or something they're sending to that customer, they always run it there to see if any of the new solutions they are proposing conflict with the old requirements or with the requirements they have had. So that's, I think, a very useful case. And of course, yeah, but then you, for instance, could have also like AI in the phase of decision and purchase, like helping you consult with internal teams, gather feedback, improve any sorts of workflows that could involve feedback or approval, and to, of course, conduct any sort of like risk assessment of whatever you are proposing. Then post purchase and use, you could use agents and you could use AI to collaborate with a service provider on a very specific customer setup, for example. Or you could have AI support you into finding solutions for issues from digital sources. So, if there is meaning like customer care. So you might not need in the future to create all of those very long care documents and documentation. You might be able to actually like navigate quite nicely with an interface that is connected with like an AI agent, and in general, like augment all sorts of customer experience, customer service experiences. And last but not least, in terms of like loyalty and advocacy, here they highlight that you could innovate quite heavily with like service providers and partners. So you could, for example, like innovate by like creating new services using AI and facilitating, for instance, the sharing of feedback, the analysis of feedback, and the analysis of experiences. This is something that already can be done. I have heard more recently of some of our commerce clients. They already have a lot of these automated tests where they have a lot of like, for instance, generated experiences. So AI can generate different customer journeys, and based on those, that is called in a way like synthetic data. I don't know if we're going to call this synthetic experiences, but they create all of these experiences that at the end of the day help you develop your service, and they can do that in like different levels, of course. So that is just an idea of like all the opportunities that, for example, this company, Columbia Road, was able to find quite quickly, I could say, in a workshop. So I would encourage you to do a similar exercise. Do a similar exercise for your own, cases, and try to think, what are the opportunities that AI, these technologies we've been talking about, bring in this very particular journey. So for my customers, so I'm pretty sure that your very specific customers would have like uses for these types of agents. So yeah, there is right now lots of agents that are being launched. You might see them all around the internet. I think there is quite a bit of coverage of them, but try them out and see what works. I believe that the cases that are the most likely to deliver a lot of value are agents that are related with sales, meaning that agents that are able, for example, to support sales growth, or that are supposed to support like proposals, following up leads, helping them create content and enhance the way that like sales decisions are being done. I think that's something that is very likely to go into adoption very quickly, very soon. So yeah.
So, I mean, in your world, because I mean, there's a lot of information on this page as it relates to, the buyer journey and the sales process. What's been your approach to identifying maybe a quick win, right? Because I think that's the thing that people struggle with, is they're trying to implement some technology like this. And what's something, if you were advising a company and they said, hey, I want to put AI and simplify the way that we're managing our sales process, where would you tell them to look? Like, what would you tell them is a thing they should consider?
Well, the way I could start is by looking at their strategy. So I try to understand, what are you really trying to achieve with your business, and from there, I think I could look into like their priorities. I could look into, for example, okay, what seems to be like where are you like lacking behind? Let's imagine that like if you seem to be really struggling with sales, like for 3 quarters now you have not met your goals there. So let's look into it, and then I could go into those processes that are like a little bit like slower or sluggish, and I would try to see like if we find opportunities in there for some sort of like innovation. And I believe that use cases of AI honestly can when you're working with an expert company like ours, you can deploy all sorts of advanced technology. We have deployed like machine vision systems on like car washes all across the world, and we have also deployed like a very specific sort of like customer assistance that retrieve information from documents. So I think it's all about finding the business need. Once we understand that, I think we're much more able to provide a solution or an idea.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I like the answer. It's kind of a strategist answer, but if you think about speed, right? So you said speed, so something that's slow, right? Like if there's a thing that you feel like you could increase. I talk about swivel chair. So anything that a person has to pick up and move to another system, like how do we, find those inefficiencies? Because that gives you like a quick, like, oh, this thing used to take me X hours to do, and now it doesn't, or it's used to take us a day to get back to a client on this thing. If we hit those pain points that people talk about, that's a great way to, because you could identify within this kind of flow that you created, where are those? Like those could be one of your colors or something, right? Like this is a thing that takes longer than it should. So maybe we could apply an AI tool to it to move us along. And that starts to simplify it, because the more you can collect it into a system, I think that helps.
Absolutely. And the reason why I highlight so much the business here is because it's technology in a way for the sake of business, right? And this is something that like I truly believe that is a place where we create like value for everybody. So if you look, for example, at the customer service processes, it might be that, a problem that you think that you have, like, for example, we're having a lot of bad feedback about our customer service, or our customer service is like not working at all. It might be that a solution that you would have considered in the past, like, hey, let's maybe, change this team, or like let's upskill the whole team, or let's start a new program. It might be that bringing AI into the process might actually help your team. So hey, how about we bring a tool that like enables our team to like work better for our customers, and or what do we bring a tool that helps them understand their problems better? So those are, I think, all sorts of like solutions where we can drive real value.
Yeah, that's that kind of respond category. So the businesses that stay ahead, and I like your idea of thinking about it as a tool. I'm really bad at any kind of construction around my house. Like if you see me in Home Depot, you should just send me away. But and I do try to like do things with the wrong tool, right? So like, oh, let's do, but if you go to the store and buy that right tool, then you can get done with the project quicker. It looks better. So often some of the problems within your company are just applying the right kind of tool, and AI can be that tool that really kind of moves you forward. So helping in that response category. I think you talked a little bit about, I wanted to go to the law. There was a law one that you had. Is that in this slide deck?
I think I might have removed it, but tell me what
I
was
thought
the
there was
thought
one
behind
thing
it.
about you were doing a
Oh,
project.
Edita. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Edilex. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how that project worked and what the result was.
Yeah, well, I can tell a little bit more in this slide. Perfect. So, how have we been creating value through AI at Vincit? Basically, now what we have is a working framework, and it's a framework that has worked surprisingly well. In a way, I think there is nothing new in here, in the sense that this is some stuff that we know. We know how to implement technology. But what we have done is trying this approach for implementing AI. So ADLEX here, as you can see, this first example on the left corner, it's a case, the first of its kind in Finland, where we have been using generative AI to change the work that legal work is done, basically. So lawyers now in the country can go and search for what might be the laws that are related to a problem they are having, and instead of like spending hours or days investigating what are all the like legal implications of something, they can now get a summary of that in like less than a minute. And not only a summary, it is quite well regulated solution, so you can see the suggestions of like, okay, these are all the things that are like related to what my problem, but I can also like go and deep dive into each of those. So you can click on those and you can find the exact document where that summary was taken from. So it's quite a beautiful solution that is changing, I would say, law work in Finland. And the way it started was, it actually started from the strategy, because our customer wanted to see what what they could do with AI, which was a very usual case last year. Last year, customers came to us and they were like, "Hey guys, we want to do something with AI," and we would ask them, "But what?" And then they would be like, "Something." Tell me, what can we do? This year, the landscape is completely different. They already understand AI very well, and they have a lot more clarity on what they want to do. But back then, and still now, like what we look at is at the strategy. So we try to understand, like, okay, this is what you're trying to achieve now. So let's now find some use cases. And what we do is we take this human-oriented approach where we start workshopping with some of the teams, and we try to understand, okay, there is all these ideas, there is all these use cases that are around, and then we try to align around those and see how important they are. For example, I can tell you that like in one company, when we were doing this, we found out that they had spreadsheet in a critical part of their business. It was a company that has a lot of parts that are kind of like they have to be in certain place at certain time, and it's equipment, so it's a large company. And they had a spreadsheet. They had a spreadsheet in between that many people had to update, and then some people didn't trust others to update their spreadsheet, so they would keep their own local copy, and then different departments had, their own like versions of it, and that would cause sometimes issues, and the parts didn't appear when they had to. So this was a very specific use case that we were only able to discover after talking about like AI and like talking a little bit about all these use cases, getting inspired and like brainstorming about like what are like most pressing issues in a unit. So after discovering a use case, what we often do at Vincit and what we did with this Edilex case is we started designing a user experience. So we decided to like look at AI development from the human angle, like how would a human actually interact with this solution, and what could it mean for their experience? And for that, of course, we had a series of like UX interviews and a few rounds of iterations, and created a prototype of how this experience might look like. And we coupled that with like a review of their data. So we had some of our technical experts review what was the state of their data, because AI is as good as your data. So if you have, you might probably have, as most companies right now, data from different sources. So you might have data from social media, from an ERP, from a competitor. There might be like some open data around, and all of these types of data are sources for the experience you're trying to create. So we had an expert to go and look into all these data sources and create like a model, like, hey, in order to provide this experience, we could be pulling all this data, and this is how we could look. And also that person is specialized in like making sure that it's also like being done in a responsible way, so that you, for example, don't create models for the sake of creating them, so that they are, for example, adjusted for bias. And with that, we actually would create a proof of value in about 1 or 2 months. We had a demo. We have a small demo, a use case that said, hey, you have this very specific problem in your business. It is a bottleneck, and this is like an experience that is based on AI that you could build with the data and the tech you have, and we could show it to them. And with Edilex, that's how it started, and then it grew into a project that we have been developing to completion. So we have been building it in, and now we continue building it. The launch is coming in a month. I think it's going to be one of the most exciting services here in the Nordics, and it's an approach that we believe works quite well. Have you seen this type of approach in your customers, or does it speak to you, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, definitely finding the pain points and then determining how you can apply some kind of a technology to it. Again, that quick win, like everyone needs to see something that's kind of a, hey, how did that work for you, before they want to go and do it. And I like your idea of finding something people don't trust internally.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because like there's multiple versions of it, or it's hard to update, or whatever. Like that gives you an indicator of a pain point, like somewhere that you can go and start to address. AI is probably right now in the world of address a pain point over doing something that's just cool and interesting. Like AI is cool and interesting, but trying to sell cool and interesting over what can you do from the perspective of relieving someone to do something else, or that they're overwhelmed or overworked. Like that's where I would think internally first, is what can we cover over that may not be working as effectively or efficiently as we want. And then once you win their trust there, you can start to go and do something that's like a little more progressive, right? A little bit more fun and exciting on that side. We always want the technology to be new, like the movies, like, it does this really what, and it's like really simple. Like find something simple, something that people hate doing that they have to do, and how do you apply AI in that space? And then also the trust, like in that legal space, how do you know that you've had something reviewed or looked at and that it's actually accurate? Like, how do you know that? So building that in that place.
Yeah.
We did get a couple questions. I'm going to pop us over to that, and then like we can look at the questions that we got. So like one was around using AI to be responsive. So what are some examples that you've seen in the world of people using AI to be responsive?
Well, there's a couple of ways. So one is by helping you experiment. So AI can really like help you launch experiments very quickly at scale without actually having to do things. So this applies to like, theoretically like sparring, for example, with like, um, a copilot or similar tool of a similar tool about like potential ways of solving something. But it also applies, for example, to launching experiments, massive experiments on your site of something might work. So you can like launch a lot of agents that can go and visit your site, as I was saying earlier. So that's something to think about. So the scale of experimentation just grows, and we know already that we learn by doing, we learn by trying. So if you try a million times, definitely learnings from those tries are going to be a lot greater, and AI just makes that possible, like in a really short amount of time.
Yeah, and seeing that also from the perspective of the thing that we talked about, where people, where something isn't as quick as you want, so how do you do that in just even getting someone a question answered back? And then the other one's
Yeah.
about personalization and customer experience, which is something that's near and dear to my heart. So I really like the idea that you can look at what's considered unstructured data and understand your customers faster in this category than we've been able to in the past. You're not relying on a imprecise survey or a bias. You talked about bias earlier, to then determine who people are and what they want, and then having those tools built in such that you can truly give someone an experience that's different from the experience that they've had in the past. So like if I want to see something in one way, you want to see it in another way, AI finally unlocks that, right? Like really, we just mass sent people like, oh, we got 3 versions. So which of the 3 versions do you want? And you might need to have more than that in order to really get someone to where they want to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. The experiences are just like changing massively. I think we are moving from like, having, for example, these sort of like recommendations that are really personalized, like on Amazon, to like already like environments where we can see how we might look with those clothes, that that they customize the clothes to our body, to our size. And this is something that like it's already like under deployment in some places.
Yeah. And on the faux side, AI impacting the customer trust, that's typically what I've seen is where it gives you a bad or stupid answer. Like I was using an unnamed tax platform to do some of my taxes, and I kept trying to use it just to help me answer a question. It kept sending me to like FAQs that didn't have anything to do with what I cared about. And so it was dead to me from then on, right? I was like, I'm not looking at
Yeah.
that anymore. It doesn't know what it's doing. So we, as humans, I'm of the opinion once you get the first wrong answer, you're like, and I'm done. I'm out. I'm out. I need a person. It's like pressing
Yeah.
0 on the phone when you call in. Give me a customer service person. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like I cannot relate because in Finland we have this beautiful system for taxes that we don't have to do taxes. They do it for us. I don't
Okay,
worry. And
okay. Yeah.
they have a lot of technology, and if you haven't seen them, go and check the social media of like Vero. It's beautiful. We don't have to do that, and they actually have a lot of automation. They have like very good customer service nowadays, but they take care of everything for us.
Yeah, that is good. So yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Victoria, and talking about tech and how that kind of applies.
And thank you, Eric. It was a pleasure to join you and talk a little bit about like how we see AI and how we see these trends shaping the market. I really hope that you all have found some inspiration in here to like go and try some tools and to embrace the use of AI in your own fields. I don't think we should be scared of it.
I think that's a good
Let's
point.
embrace it.
I have been so curious to find people who haven't even just downloaded one of the tools and tried to play with it. Like, it's not going to hurt you. So you should really go and do a simple thing and see what kind of result and answer you get back, because it'll convert you quickly when you play with it and realize what you can what kind of time savings or efficiency you can receive. So yes.
Yeah, or just like they can be a great companion. I believe that my chat GPT has become like my best friend. It's helping me every day with all sorts of tasks and conversations. So
And it's awake at 2 o'clock in the morning when I am. I'm like, hey, I got this thing to work on. It's not yelling at me because I'm sending a Slack message at the
yeah.
wrong time. So yeah. All right, Shafiqa, you want to take us out?
Absolutely. Thank you all so much, Victoria and Eric. That was an incredible conversation. And thank you everyone for joining us as well. Of course, there was a lot of great content in today's session. So just to remind you all, we will be sending out a recording as soon as possible to you. So look out for that. And if you enjoyed this session, mark your calendars because we have another one coming up in a few months. So, Scaling Through Uncertainty is happening on August 12th, and we'll be diving into how B2B companies can grow and adapt through changing conditions while also staying aligned and intentional. So, thank you again to everyone for spending some time with us today, and we hope you have a great one.